The beginning of the story. At an airport in Los Angeles, flight attendants Jenny and Paula are preparing for their next journey. Captain Forrest and his co-pilot Wilsey speak with them and note that there won't be many passengers tonight due to the storm. Wilsey takes some medicine as he isn't feeling well. The attendants begin meeting the passengers. George is a teenager who always flies alone and doesn't like feeling confined. Bev has come with her husband, Dr. Kingston, who has Parkinson's disease and cannot move or speak. Army medic Shyla is nervous about flying, while Louie is relaxing with her cat. Nihal and Susan are expecting a baby and are very germ-conscious, cleaning their seats before sitting. Tourists Horst and Nika are excited but don't speak English well. Henry brings a cage of hamsters, and when Ralph helps him try to store it, he gets bitten. The cage doesn't fit, so the attendants make Henry send it to the cargo hold. Businessman Preston keeps sneezing, seemingly with the same illness as Wilsey. As the plane finally takes off, Jenny has to remind Nihal to turn off his phone. When he refuses, Henry forces him to do so, leading to an argument until Jenny reminds them they could be arrested if they misbehave. Later, Henry flirts with Jenny, telling her about his PhD and commenting on society's poor manners. Moments later, Henry sees news that the CDC has locked down an apartment building in Los Angeles. Meanwhile, Ralph feels unwell and asks for water while looking at a wound on his thumb. Jenny sees him sitting strangely, and when she checks on him, he suddenly vomits on her, foaming at the mouth and demanding the plane land. While attendants try to care for him, the cat sneaks around eating vomit off the floor unnoticed. Jenny leaves Ralph with Paula and goes to clean. But Ralph suddenly runs down the aisle, pushes her, and bangs on the cockpit door, demanding the plane stop. Wilsey follows protocol and locks the door while Forrest alerts ground control. Henry tries to stop Ralph, but is easily overpowered, as is George. Then Preston, George, Paula, Shyla, and Henry work together to subdue Ralph and knock him out, tying his wrists with plastic restraints. Shyla checks for injuries, while Jenny breaks down in private, telling Paula she didn't handle the emergency well. At that moment, Forrest announces they've been ordered to land and instructs everyone to return to their seats. The plane shakes violently on descent, and the attendants tell everyone to brace. Ralph, now with red eyes, gets up and bites Paula's nose, seriously injuring her. He goes mad again, and passengers must team up to push him into the bathroom and lock him in. As the plane finally lands, Shyla uses an emergency medical kit to give Paula medicine to prevent her from going into shock and ties a scarf around her face. But Paula is bleeding heavily and needs urgent medical care. Forrest is frustrated because ground control tells them to wait, despite the emergency. When the emergency becomes known, Forrest decides to break protocol and chooses an unassigned gate without informing anyone. Forrest and Wilsey keep the bathroom, door locked while everyone except Bev and Kingston, who need help moving, disembark from the plane. Ed leads the group to the other end of the gate, but the door is locked and no one responds to his calls on the radio. With no other option, they follow Ed through an employee entrance to access the airport's staging area. The group descends, stairs, and Ed checks other doors, only to be shocked to find them all locked, something that never happens. Upon inspecting the power box, he confirms they are in lockdown and everything they do is visible through active security cameras. As a debate starts over what to do next, a sudden siren interrupts them. A voice announces that the group has been quarantined and must wait for help. The passengers call their families to explain the situation, then begin to panic and shout. Jenny, seen as the airline's representative, is unable to defend herself. But thankfully, Shyla intervenes, telling the group she has a medical kit that can help keep Paula alive for a few more hours. Jenny takes Ed and some passengers with her to find Shyla's bag, but the power goes out. Ed guides them back to the plane with his flashlight, only to find Wilsey and Forrest gone. Jenny opens the bathroom and is horrified to find blood everywhere. Preston moves forward to retrieve his laptop and bumps into Kingston, who is alone. His wife has disappeared. As the others wonder what happened, Ed cuts through the carpet and finds a hatch that leads to the baggage hold. Jenny reaches for the medical kit while Nihal pulls a gun from his suitcase. Ed is startled by a creature running past his feet, thinking it's a rat. But Henry believes it's his hamster, as he finds a broken cage. When Jenny exits the hold, she sees Preston's laptop soaked in blood. At the corridor's end, Wilsey is running on all fours, growling and covered in blood. Suddenly, an infected Forrest attacks Jenny from behind. The others rush to help, but punches are useless, so Nihal shoots Forrest, splattering blood on his own face. The group exits the plane and finds Kingston fallen from his wheelchair, and Preston unconscious, bitten on the neck. Jenny sees Bev crying and begging for help, but Bev suddenly turns and attacks her. Jenny escapes, and the group locks the door behind Bev. Back with the others, Shyla does her best to care for Paula, while Susan wipes blood off Nihal's face, and they kiss. Henry and Ed block the door with furniture, while Jenny notices blood droplets on the floor, wondering where they came from. Frustrated, Jenny demands silence and takes charge, since the captain is dead. Shyla explains this isn't a normal disease, reminding Jenny of the quarantined building shown in the news. Kingston had seen a red-eyed rat nearby, but couldn't speak. The rat jumps on his head and bites him before George knocks it away. The group traps the rat in a bucket, and Shyla treats Kingston's wound. They agree to isolate George and Paula in a crate in case they turn. Ed captures the rat with gloves and discovers a tag on its leg. It's escaped from a lab. George accuses Henry of lying about it being a hamster, saying he saw a long tail earlier. When Henry denies it, Jenny takes him aside for answers. Henry swears he didn't smuggle the rat, explaining lab rats wouldn't pass security. As they hug, Raph suddenly reappears and attacks Jenny, ignoring Henry's efforts to stop him. The others hear the screams and rush in, managing to strangle Raph with a hose. At that moment, Ed receives a radio message that the CDC has finally arrived. The group gathers at the door, but instead of letting them out, 4 agents enter pointing guns and confiscating the rat and Nihal's weapon. They move to inject Paula and Kingston. The group demands answers, but the agents only say it's protocol. Everyone hesitates until Luss volunteers, but before she can be injected, her cat bites her neck and runs off. One agent fires but misses every shot. Kingston finally turns, attacking one of the agents, and is shot by the others. They try to drag their injured comrade out, but find the door locked. They shoot it open and flee. Horst follows, and police shoot all agents except one, who is only wounded. The group pulls him back inside before closing the door. Susan notices foam at Nihal's mouth, and others drag him in, realizing he's infected. Shyla points out that each syringe was a different color, suggesting individualized injections and not a standard protocol. Henry admits he retrieved a gun and forced the agent to confess. The man reveals he's not CDC, but part of CBDT, a chemical, biological, domestic terrorism unit under Homeland Security. Their team entered the quarantined LA apartment hours ago, but no one returned. The attic. They found a bioterror lab created by a cult. Based on a survivor, they tried to develop a cure, but it made things worse, turning this group into test subjects. With confirmation the rats carried the disease, the agent takes Henry's gun and kills himself. Nika breaks down, and Ed recalls that this terminal often floods due to an old drainage tunnel, which means that if they find it, they might escape. Suddenly, Wilsey appears in an open spot above the container and grabs Ed's hand, so Henry tries to shoot him, but realizes he's out of bullets. Ed tells George to press a button that lifts the container, crushing Wilsey under a beam. The group leaves the container, and Ed guides them through the area while Jenny notices Henry is missing. Nika walks behind and is suddenly dragged away by something, prompting the group to rush up the stairs. Secretly, Henry is reaching for another bag with a gun. As the group runs, Jenny stumbles and finds that Pavla has also transformed. The group reaches an office and searches for the terminal blueprint, which shows them a path across the wall leading to the drainage tunnel. Meanwhile, George reveals he stole Henry's bag and found suspicious documents inside recording lab experiments, plus a mysterious box. Just then, Susan and Niall find them and try to attack, but Henry returns and shoots them in time. Ed notices Henry has been bitten, and George takes the opportunity to open the box, revealing a bunch of medicines and a syringe. Henry, finally, confesses that he brought the rats and was part of the cult the officer mentioned, whose goal is to free the planet from humans, who have become increasingly violent and destructive. Henry threatens to kill Jenny if George doesn't give him the antidote. Ed jumps on Henry to stop him, but gets shot. The others, now scared, give Henry the antidote, which he mixes with blood from his wound and injects into his eye. He explains that the cult has followers in many organizations, allowing the rats to pass security. Henry prepares to leave and tries to take George as a hostage. Jenny tries to stop him, but Henry knocks her down and escapes with the child and the blueprint. Jenny, dizzy, sends Shyla out first. A few minutes later, Jenny also exits and encounters an infected Preston. A chase ensues, and just as Preston nearly catches her, she kicks him off and traps him in a machine, bashing his head with a hatch lid until he dies. She then continues searching for George and is forced to take a different route after seeing a transformed Nika nearby. In another room, she runs into Shyla, who has retrieved the officer's thermal goggles. Shyla gives them to Jenny and explains that she was bitten, so she tells Jenny to go after George while she holds them off. Shyla heads back to the main room, shouting to attract the infected, who immediately attack her. Jenny finds a hole in the wall that Henry had made to reach the tunnel, and is about to enter when Luis grabs her. She kills him with a wrench and crawls through the walls. Following blood drops with the goggles, she's startled by some animals, but realizes they're just regular rats. She finds Henry's shirt and the blueprint by a ladder to the drainage tunnel. Looking down, she sees George, who tells her the antidote didn't work and Henry has transformed. Ignoring his warnings, Jenny goes down, sees blood drop on her goggles, and is suddenly attacked by Henry. She drops the goggles as he throws her around. While she tries to fight back, George grabs the goggles and a gun and shoots Henry. Jenny reclaims the goggles and finishes Henry with a wrench. Below the hatch, they see flames, meaning outside teams are burning the terminal. The way out is blocked, but Jenny finds a suitcase, climbs into the tunnel, and kicks the cover open. George is scared, but Jenny gives him the goggles and lets him go first. As they run, they hear explosions. Jenny begins to weaken and realizes she's infected. George turns back and sees her vomiting, but refuses to leave her behind. Jenny agrees to follow for his sake. Eventually, they find an exit blocked by bars. George squeezes through, but when he turns back, a transformed Jenny lunges at him through the bars. Fortunately, she's too big to get through. George slips out of his jacket and escapes. In the end, George successfully flees the airport, and the movie ends on this suspenseful note. Thanks for watching.